Right, welcome back to the Think Strong pod. First one of 2026. First recorded one.
Yeah.
Anyway, Happy New Year to one and all. How are you doing?
Good, man. Looking forward to this pod because I have no notes on it and you have it all.
I feel like I'm the keeper of all the information. You don't know what I'm going to throw at you.
Yeah, it's good.
So Israel, Palestine. Joking, no. We are going to get into some real fitness chat in this episode. Program design, our processes for programming specifically. We talk a lot about kind of our ethos, how we go about things coaching wise, kind of globally, but we're going to take a dive into programming, what our processes are for it, and some of our opinions and maybe some misconceptions which might crop up. So first subtopic, intensity versus volume. What are your initial thoughts on that?
Intensity versus volume. That's where everyone goes first, intensity, right? I was actually talking to a PT client I had this morning. She was like, just asking me about sets and reps and stuff. And I was just like, she hasn't done any training apart from like a few HIIT classes, and she does Pilates and stuff. She's like, I know that this is important, but I have no idea like where to go with it. So I was like, learning like motor control first, muscular endurance, then you can start layering stuff on top of that. So just building volume like at good movement quality and patterns is really important, like neurological adaptations and stuff like that. But that often gets overlooked, doesn't it? How many times do we see people with poor movement quality jumping on an online program that is written really well for somebody that has good movement quality? So yeah, I think volume is important if done well first.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's going to be kind of one of the biggest things that I want to touch on here, is that it's not really one or the other. It's kind of misleading because it's actually not versus. It's like how you properly position yourself with enough of each. And we can go into the specifics of what discipline is going to demand a little bit more of each of those things as well. But like you said, the demographic makes a big difference as well, because for someone like that, what they might need, which is going to be quite effective for them in the long run, is get to a point where they can then add intensity, and that's going to be their optimum route to whether it's just moving well, being strong in life, because we know that intensity and working in close proximity to failure can be really good for whether it's building muscle and building strength, which is something that's really good for longevity and general health. But if it's a sports performance perspective, you might be building to a point where, yes, you can achieve intensity, but yes, you also need to achieve a certain amount of volume. Obviously, thinking about CrossFit for a second, we need to remember that when we look at competing and the competitive side of things, very often you're being tested across a few days. It's not just one workout, and your ability to tolerate volume in itself is something that is a trait, is a real important part of your performance, because you can be fit, you can be strong, you can move well, you can do X, Y, and Z, but if you can only do it for the first workout, then you're pretty useless, aren't you?
Yeah. I think that's really important, and I heard somebody talking about this the other day in terms of there's the whole thing at the minute about like building the base or building the foundation or whatever, but like a lot of people are spending a lot of time building a base, but towards the wrong capacity for what they need. So like in CrossFit, for example, like for people that are doing like recreational competitions, they're never really going to have like loads and loads of like running within a competition. I think the one that you just did, which we'll touch on later, is like it had a little bit of running in, but like your demand or the capacity that you needed to complete that run didn't require you doing like hours of zone 2. Do you know what I mean? Like people are going so far down a rabbit hole where like the guy that was talking was like, they were talking about high jumpers, and he's like, they take maybe like 10 steps before they hit the ground and explode over. And like all they need to do is be able to run really fucking fast to hit the ground and jump. And these people were doing like 300 meter repeats or something.
Right.
And he's like, why? He's like, that's not like specific to the goal. And like the adaptation is completely different that they need. So I think it's, intensity and volume, they come like hand in hand, but it's like, are you doing it in the right area towards the right thing? Like CrossFit is very varied, but you can still be super specific with like the area that you need improvement in.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think when you look at people breaking down like the different levels of performance in CrossFit, you see that like the running standard within itself, yes, if you look at CrossFit Games, is very good. But you look at like maybe where the biggest demographic sit of people that actually like to train hard, they're probably chasing to, or looking at least, the semi-finals athletes, because that's the next step ahead, and that's the logical place where they need to look to see what's required of them. The running and sometimes even like the rowing and the erg work is not the biggest difference. And then comes in social media and just looking at how other people train. People are imitating that before they've really considered what their kind of hierarchy of needs are. They might not know and just think, oh, if I'm the best runner I possibly am, I'm by proxy going to be the best athlete. But we know it's not necessarily the case.
They're like time on feet mindset is like wrong, because they're not even, their gait is terrible as well. They're not even like running correctly. Now, like people will say, oh, it doesn't matter that much at certain levels. Yeah, you can say that, but like if these people are chasing performance, like what you're talking about, the people that we coach that want to improve athletically, it's like their efficiency or their ability to express what they can in a competition comes from that pathway that I just touched on before, which is like motor control, understanding the movement pattern properly and being able to express it first, like in isolation. And this is where good programming comes into it. Before that added intensity is put there. Like they might look at Instagram and they see someone doing that workout and they're like, yeah, I'm going to do that. But like a scaled variation of that would be great for them to have a better pathway to get in there quicker.
Yeah. It's kind of like you said, that hierarchy of needs and how that fits into your programming, and like touching on the running side of things. I think you see that more and more when people are just so familiar with certain numbers. They're like, oh, I did a 10K or a 5K, because why would you run anything like less than a 5K? Yeah. It's like, well, yeah, you want to test your 5K time every single time you put your shoes on. It's like you're probably not going to be getting better, nor is it going to be feeding into your actual sport and performance, what you're trying to chase. No, cool. And kind of for me, I think when it comes to volume, intensity, a cool way to think about it from a CrossFit perspective, if you are trying to chase kind of optimum performance that way, is thinking about it more of a ratio in different times of the year. It's like building or keeping somewhat of some consistency to your volume, to your intensity, so that allows for that longer term adaptation, so you can build those traits that you're looking for. Then you transition into your next phase of training, where you might be kind of 2-part intensity, 4-part volume focused, and then something drops and it switches. And I think that consistency is something that's overlooked as well in a way to not, like I said, favor one thing or the other, because it's quite easy to get kind of lost within that, I think.
Yeah, 100%. I think people that want to do CrossFit all the time, they'll just stick to every single thing that's like written on their program as well, without having a little bit of like self-awareness. Do you know what I mean? And in classes, you see it all the time. Like I coach CrossFit every day, and I make a conscious effort to say to someone like, you should probably pull back a little bit here, because I've seen what they've done in the rest of the week. I'm like, yeah, it's great, the program's written on the board or whatever, but being able to like tell someone where they can probably push a little bit more intensity wise, or pull back, is super important for them to make progress as well. In the stage now of the season, like everyone's prepping towards the Open a little bit more. So what they should have done beforehand is slightly different to the phase that they're moving into now. Do you know what I mean? There should be a significant difference between the way you're applying yourself through the phases. I mean, back in the day, me and you wrote an awesome program for High Rocks.
Yeah.
We're a little bit ahead of our time, I think, in that stage, weren't we?
Yeah.
Before we had like a little bit more reach and stuff, but I remember the detail that we put into it and the thought process. You can probably go into that a little bit more, like accumulation, intensification, all that.
Yeah, that's it. And that's going to be one of the next topics, actually. But just kind of while we're touching on its relationship to sport with intensity and volume and how it relates to a client or an individual, is that you're always going to get people which are kind of, or coaches, I think, which are more inclined to one side of that spectrum. And for me, recently with coaching and programming, I've kind of been exploring that spectrum and people's different ethos and how that impacts. And I think it's again, you as an athlete are going to fall somewhere on that spectrum to how you adapt and how you improve as well. But it's about knowing how far you go up and down it and understanding that it is a sliding scale and it's not binary. It's not 1 or 0. And if you're not attentive to that, that's when I think you're going to potentially run into issues, because this is kind of part of the next topic as well. But from like a coaching perspective, a coach's standpoint needs to, I think, in an ideal world, understand that they're going to fall somewhere between those. And some people are going to respond really well to just being like locked into a structure and understanding that structure and not have too much of a second thought about their own well-being, whether they're feeling good or bad throughout that, which is going to potentially impact their performance. Whereas some people are going to be really kind of reactive to everything that happens. So, you know, having an ethos which you're willing to get behind without flogging a dead horse or dying on a hill unnecessarily, where, you know, it's going to cause more harm than good.
What do you think about intensity in terms of like the online space and how you can project or get that message across, like within notes? And do you know what I mean? Because you're not like directly there. And I know some people that I've coached before, they don't even look at their notes sometimes. They're like, I just did it for time, and it's in there for like 4 rounds for quality, because that's what they need that week. Not only like getting that across to the client, but also the client performing like what you want at the correct intensity. So like for me, if there's a client who has like body composition goals and they want to train, they want to be within like 1 or 2 reps in reserve of like what I've given them. The average person, if you say, go and grab a weight that you think will leave 1 or 2 reps in reserve, I can guarantee they've probably got 6 or 7 reps left in the tank. Do you know what I mean? So like when you talk about intensity, you kind of need to find they need to find that limit to be able to have a relative or like an accurate representation of what that is for them. Yeah,
no, absolutely. I think understanding that their personality comes into that as well, because on the other side of the spectrum, I've got people which I coach which will take things to like an RPE 10 just by default as well. So understanding how that person reacts, and if you're paying attention to someone's personality, normally you can get a pretty good grasp on how they're going to approach something like that. But then when it comes to notes and prescriptions, obviously you might prescribe intensity, but you might prescribe other things to limit them. It might be a tempo or something like that, not because you want them to perform a tempo, but because you want them to be constrained in a way which is going to not mean that they overshoot something. And likewise for conditioning, whether that's rest, whether that's a certain task that they have to do, or even a movement in a CrossFit sense to bring your heart rate down or to manage fatigue in some sort of way. Conveying intensity is not always in a simple prescription or a level out of 10, especially if you know that there is a bit of a risk to someone under or overshooting it.
Yeah, I think it's what you prescribe them is really important, right? We had a workout this week that was like 6 sets. Every 3 minutes was front squat from the floor, 5, I think, and then straight into like 1 set of max unbroken strict handstand push-ups. So like if they've got the skill of the handstand push-up and they're a relatively good athlete, they're probably going to get 12 to 15 reps. Middle of the range, like average person that comes to a class that does CrossFit consistently, maybe like 8 reps, and then you got people that have never done CrossFit that turn up to the gym, and it's like, what do they need to get the stimulus of the workout? Like doing a box pike push-up is still very technically demanding skill-wise for people, especially if they haven't done CrossFit before. It's like you're just going to do a max unbroken set of push-ups, which they probably struggle with as well. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then giving them people like a time domain within that 3-minute window of like, you need to be done by now. Do you know what I mean? Because if not, they're doing push-ups like on a box or whatever, just for like 2.5 minutes or whatever. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was a heavy barbell, so that's one constraint that's within the workout already, skill-wise. They've got to clean it from the floor and do front squats. But yeah, like you said, you might choose something you know is going to slow them down in the workout to regulate that intensity.
Yeah. Prescribed movements for rest, I think, are actually really good in like functional fitness in general. Learning to regulate yourself and getting to a point where you know what your moving recovery kind of rate is with a certain movement. Say box jump overs, for example. If you're doing like a big chipper in a competition or something, you don't want to be stopping at all. But if you can get to a stage where you can bring your heart rate down and that becomes your recovery time, that's going to be a really valuable thing. And utilizing that in training and getting people to understand that is a really interesting way to go about things. Not just resting, actively resting and seeing how you can continue to perform, or continue to even push attributes in, in the sport, whether that's strength and things like that. Like for example, on our compete group program at the moment, we're doing a lot of like squat conditioning work where we're resting and stuff by sitting on the bike and nothing too demanding, but changing that stimulus. And although we were obviously talking about constraints, this is going to be something that actually might be slightly harder, but they're learning to regulate within that. That's kind of that next level up from that.
Yeah, like even just from a concentration standpoint, like changing what you're using, like you're going from a barbell to the bike. As soon as you jump off the bike, you've got to switch on straight away. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's like that adaptation there as well.
Yeah, so another thing which is valuable for kind of competition, which is cool. Touching on that kind of how you convey intensity, what do you think social media's impact has been on that when we look at maybe more so the hybrid world, the high rocks? Obviously that's what's popular at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, it's like impeding doom, I think, around that kind of hybrid athlete thing. Like you've got blokes that are chewing tarmac every day or stomping around saying that they're, I don't know, fighting their demons or whatever, but then they're crying on social media because they pulled out of their race. It's like, do you know what I mean? It's like, which part of the spectrum are you on? Are you pushing training intensity to a point where you feel like a, I don't know, superhero or whatever?
Yeah.
But on the other hand, you're just so weak mentally that you can't take missing running around a convention center for an hour. Do you know what I mean? Social media is just like we've had Goggins, we've been through everything. It's just a constant cycle of shit, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And it keeps coming, doesn't it? You think it's over. And like what kind of gives me a bit of faith in that, like people are paying attention to how they actually should be training, sometimes comes from like the more like the running world of Instagram. Sometimes I see people prioritizing paces and doing things properly and understanding that they're working in different intensities as they should, and then straight back. It's like a cycle, a mini cycle within itself. Is straight back to I'm doing 100Ks this week, whatever it is, and it's just becomes a dick swinging competition. And there's people dealing with the fallout of this as well. It's becoming more and more apparent that people are running themselves into the ground, not just running, but with everything, and potentially down to a lack of knowledge and proper exposure to program, because there's just shit out there, so much shit which people are just shoveling onto their plate and just assuming that they'll deal with it.
Yeah, you
can be as mentally tough as you want. Like if your body is gonna break at a certain point, it's because it's not conditioned to what you're doing. It's still gonna happen.
Yeah, it's like I've been training for I don't know so many years now, and after the High Rocks race, I was like, I'm just going to have 2 weeks nice and easy, then get back into like a full squat and strength cycle and weightlifting. And I've just used a basic linear progression model with Dean. Like volume was a little bit higher, percentages were 60%. Every week percentages goes up, volume comes down a little bit, and the accessories to support that started higher as well, and they're also coming down now as well. As sometimes you see people push the accessories as the volume comes down as well, and they kind of get a little bit muddled in that sense as well. Do you know what I mean? Like, and I'm on week 4, and it'll be week 5 next week, the same linear progression, and then I'll be moving into like some wave loading, so intensity starts to come in, but those waves are obviously starting at a lower percentage, building, like dipping the toe in 80%, 85, coming out of it back in. But people will just go straight in with like a 5-3-1 from day dot of like not squatting for ages. You know what I mean? It's just like understanding where you're at. Like my training age is very high and training experience, but it doesn't mean that I just disregard like the length of time I've had off having a barbell on my back. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, because there's so many. That's what you gain from having a higher training age, is that you understand that it's multifaceted. You probably know that you haven't lost any physical strength in terms of like a neuromuscular adaptation. You know you haven't lost any like cross-sectional size of your muscle because you're weighing the same, but that doesn't mean you're going to jump into what you could do, 6-8 weeks ago when you were, or however long it was, when you're actually like a lot more consistent with squatting. You understand that there's just a lot of kind of getting accustomed to being under the bar from so many different perspectives,
Yeah,
just
I think,
how you're moving.
Yeah, I think years ago when I read, I don't know if we spoke about this on the pod, but Ross Edgley's book about, he's just like changing all the domains that he was doing, and just how your body adapts to the stimulus that you give it. But he would obviously do everything in such a like methodical way from the beginning. And I think just like reading stuff like that when I was younger was great. It just sets the tone for, like, I read it at the time and I was like, understood it, but like not in a deeper level at that time. But yeah, I think as people just see the shiny object, don't they, and whatever, and just go for it.
Yeah, because in one sense things are more accessible, but sometimes when they're a bit more guarded, they're slightly more well protected for you as well in terms of exposure to intensity and things like that. Obviously high rocks being one thing which is super accessible, but it's super accessible to reach an intensity which is potentially detrimental as well.
You've only got to look at, I get the question a lot. It's like, what's your most intense class? And I'm like, what do you mean by intensity?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, you come to lift, it's going to be technically demanding for your brain and like your coordination, and like intensity wise, it's going to be terrible for you. If you're attached to intensity, meaning your heart rate is elevated for a prolonged period of time. But you can come and do high rocks with really poor movement quality, and your heart rate will be through the roof because, one, you can't move efficiently, and two, everything just feels terrible. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you can't hold good positions, you're just compressing your lungs constantly through, like, it's like if you do any movement bad enough, it becomes a back movement. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, you can make it hard.
You can make it hard. So it's like people understanding intensity.
Yeah. Cool. Moving swiftly on to our program design section, I think it'll be cool to shoot a bit of shit and see kind of where we stand with how we'd build out some examples for CrossFit and how we'd build out some examples for high rocks. But just to start with, what do you think is something that is really slept on when it comes to program design? It could be like an exact methodology, like something as precise as that. We don't have to talk in kind of big umbrella terms. We can talk about, things which are maybe working really well for you at the moment. And we can go into how we would pick and choose from things after that.
Things that are slept on. Probably the manipulation of like sets, reps, and intensities like that are prescribed, I think a lot of coaches are still stuck in the same, like, well, within the like hypertrophy game, like 3 sets 10 to 12, that's it. You just do that for everything, when the science is obviously shifting a little bit more to mechanical tension being the primary driver. We know there's other stuff going on there, but like, we don't know how much metabolic stress and muscle damage is like giving us a little. That's just another thing, isn't it? On social media at the minute, it's like, oh, drop sets are terrible for you. Like, why are you doing them? And like that. But if you can teach somebody what real intensity means, or what they have in the tank through a drop set, then it's a great tool to use for that person. But I think within that like hypertrophy space, manipulating or seeing where you can get muscle growth from in a different rep range is really interesting at the minute. See, a lot of people are shifting to like two working sets of like 6 to 8 reps, like close to failure. There's a bit of an argument online at the minute between Mike Boyle, Alec Blennis, and a few other people, and Mike Boyle's saying that I think it was 0 to 5 reps is dangerous for general population.
Oh yeah, I've seen that.
Have you seen it?
Yeah.
And it's just like, it's so relative to the individual, right?
Yeah.
And like, they're just talking, like Mike Boyle, I think we spoke about him before, he's like demonizes the barbell and stuff like that. It's like, why can't you just be a normal human being that understands that this tool's appropriate for this person and this one isn't?
It's like anti-nuance, isn't it?
Yeah.
All the way through coaching, you learn that things are nuanced, and most things have an application to the right person.
Yeah, it's like the it depends answer, isn't it?
Yeah.
Which is important. But I think within CrossFit and High Rocks, getting back to where we were going with the convo, the specificity of what people are doing is, it's like people just doing High Rocks within a High Rocks program.
Yeah.
Like the program that I write online for the gym is very non-specific, like through a lot of the phases. But you're developing the movement pattern needed to then be able to express well on race day, like later on in the cycle. So I think that's often overlooked, right? It's like you need really good like hinging capacity within High Rocks for the movements that you're doing. Doesn't mean you have to do like burpee broad jumps like every single phase through the cycle. So like, how can you develop that power and efficiency through, kettlebells and other things like that?
Yeah. No, that sounds absolutely like that. We've spoken before.
What would your answer be?
Yeah. So taking a look into like more specifics, like strength protocol, I feel like that is slept on a little bit within itself. People are very quick to jump on just like linear progressions or managing a progression themselves. There is so many methodologies which have been tried, tested, and proven to be a whole lot more optimal, not necessarily compared to linear progression, but compared to someone that's just smashing something together, and then having to be reactive when it doesn't necessarily feel that good. There's things out there, like I've spoken a lot about 5-3-1 before, and using that, I know you mentioned it before, using that as a methodology to get a really good strength response, keeping the volume like absolutely minimal throughout.
I think the Wendler's great for CrossFit.
Yeah. And like tapping into that kind of CrossFitter mentality of giving them a target to try and beat every session, but you're constrained, almost like what we spoke about before, you're constrained by your working percentage that week. So you've still got intensity coming in a way that's also self-regulated, because some days you might get 10 reps where you should get 15 or vice versa. But yeah, that theory of having something tried and tested, which you can absolutely plug and play into your programming to make it, and obviously with a thought about how it's going to fit and how it's going to complement everything else. But people stray so far away from the beaten track, or they stay so strictly to the same thing which they've never come away from, that they never explore any new ideas as well. So it's like not being afraid to dive into what's already been done taking a look at studies, results, how it's filtered through into various different things, and rather than just kind of banging your head against the wall thinking that I'm a CrossFit or I'm a High Rocks coach, so I can't utilize a methodology that comes from powerlifting. Like, it's absolutely ridiculous. In powerlifting, they're creating a strength adaptation. There's so much to be learned from these different worlds. And
the crossover, like strength work from powerlifting and strongman is, I mean, for CrossFit, it's all in there anyway. So it's like, why would you not dip your toe into that? When I did a little bit of strongman, he coached like powerlifting athletes and strongman athletes. And we used an undulating conjugate like periodization. And because it was a new adaptation to me, my strength just like went through the roof.
Yeah.
So like 1 week it was like heavy, low volume. The next week it was like speed and like everything was banded. We do like band resisted back squat. We do reverse banded back squat. And it's like, people don't even look at stuff like that now.
No, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's like you'll have 10% extra on your back squat, but obviously the band's taking it off you at the bottom of the rep, and then you're changing the resistance profile at the top, and just overcoming like different parts of your squat. But it's just often overlooked, isn't it?
Yeah.
What we see in CrossFit now is kind of like, it's either like back squat, box squat.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's not like, there's no other kind of manipulation around what they could be doing. And Toby's coach, he actually did a lot of that stuff.
Yeah.
Which is cool.
From Training Think Tank. Touching on that, kind of what we see in CrossFit when it comes to squat cycles and stuff, I see like percentages, relative intensity, stuff like that just butchered so badly. But
it's still like, people always do the percentage off their like absolute max instead of like a training max.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So it's like,
we were laughing.
They don't even work out their training max. So then they're like, week 1, why does this feel so heavy?
4 sets of 4 at
90%. Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Though it's so.
Yeah, we pass a few reels to each other that we come across on Instagram, and people are just exposing themselves. Like,
week 3 of me trying to add 25 kilos to my split jerk.
If you don't know anything about programming, mate, just say. But it's a shame because, you know, there is so much out there that you could utilize and easily as well. Without overworking, you know, all of that stuff with like intensity considerations and stuff has been tried, played with, experimented before, and it's just up to you to take a look at it and be ready to drop it in and understand it for you or your clients, whatever. But people would rather kind of make it up as they go along sometimes.
Yeah.
Cool. So going into like the program design and like that hierarchy of needs that what we spoke about, if someone comes to you wanting a program, let's say for example they're wanting a High Rocks program, what's going to be your first port of call?
Program design wise, first of all, like investigate where they're at, training age, experience. For like a person that wants to push well, they'll do a movement screen properly. Just see where they're at, how they're moving, and that will start to paint the picture of like the first 2 weeks, so to speak. You can put 12 weeks together as a guide, but you can't hold yourself like wholly to that 12 weeks. You know, through like reviewing people's movement in week 1, you're like, okay, this needs to change straight away. So paint the picture to begin with, and then usually it's going to be setting some kind of foundation for good movement quality to begin with, and getting them to understand what's going to be ahead of them. I think the biggest thing is like allowing people to understand kind of how the program's going to grow into where they need to get to. That's really important with program design. Yeah,
that's something that we mentioned earlier in the pod about that, having that foresight to understand where you want to go, and having a structure in place that's going to get you there, but not being so married to that structure that it's do or die. Understanding that's unrealistic for you to have 6 months of completely uninterrupted training with external factors from the gym, let alone internal factors like, you know, the way something's moving, if you've got an injury or a niggle or something like that. So Yeah.
I mean, the length of program and stuff will dictate a lot as well. Like if the goal is the race is in 8 weeks, you've got probably like a 3-week block to begin with to get some like nice foundations laid. Then you'd kind of probably drop off for a week and then start pushing intensity for the rest of it and like for some people I would just peak them at the race. For others, they would need to taper and then come into the race a bit better. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, for myself, I would do like 6 or 8 weeks, just like start slow and build and just like be ready on race day to just go and fucking hammer it instead of like tapering down loads. I just feel like I like building up to it because my mindset and my body's shifting towards that, and then I can just like go. Whereas other people they need to have a week of intensity coming down and pump themselves up just for that race. It's probably very similar for you for like CrossFit.
Yeah, for sure. With regards to programming, understanding where you are in the year is really important. Understanding where you stand with all of the different parts of the sport, understanding how movement affects each of those, understanding what the priorities are for where you need to go in your next step, and then obviously giving a thought towards what maybe 2 steps along the line is, but not being too worried about, CrossFit Games prep when you're still trying to get your first bar muscle up, as an exaggerated example.
Yeah. But that's very important because like for me, obviously the sport is heavily running based. So it's like, how much running does that person need to do to begin with? Like, yeah, they need to get better at running, but if they haven't been running, do you know what I mean? Like what I've seen from programs is like the individual needs to get better at running, but they haven't been running beforehand. So what they do is just hammer them with like loads of mileage straight away. It's like that person is going to blow up within the first 2 weeks.
Yeah.
We see it all the time. But for you, it's like, if the person's deficit is in gymnastics, it's like, yeah, you want to probably touch on that throughout the week, but at the right volume and intensity that they're using within it. Do you know what I mean? You're not just going to give them like kip swing or whatever, like every other day. Do you know what I mean? With like, you still need to keep the quality and it needs to be the correct dosage for them.
Absolutely, yeah. Understanding where people stand, where they want to go is a real big factor. And like what we said, being adaptable versus having a structure laid out in front of you. It's no good having 12, 16 weeks of training laid out in front of you if you can't adapt to lifestyle factors and things that come up into training. Something that I've thought about a lot as well recently, which I'm not sure if kind of gets touched on, and it's kind of relating to intensity as well. What we were talking about with different times of the year, almost accepting that there's going to be seasons and periods of time where you are putting in more work and that balance is going to be shifted and skewed towards one certain thing, and then understanding that once that thing is done, your focus can shift back again. You can bring things down. They can be more focused on base building. You can spend less time in the gym. It can be less of a focus in your life in general. What I see a lot of is people pushing the narrative of everything needs to fit, everything needs to be cohesive, everything needs to be, happy, like not make you feel too bad at any point. Like there's an element of that. We're probably big supporters of the fact that if you do too much too soon, you'll do fuck all. Like that's pretty simple. But having a period of your life or a period of your training where you're really pushing hard and working towards something, not only is that going to to maximize your results for that, it's going to give you something to really chase down mentally as well. And I think obviously we know that mental side of your training and your adherence to your training can make such a big impact on it. just putting off years of your life for steady progress is disheartening for some people as well.
Yeah.
I like the idea of having a period or season of my life where I'm digging in hard, and then one where I'm not doing that quite so much.
Yeah, 100%. It's like I had a bit of a laugh with the things to leave in 2025, and one of them was just like the word balance. Because it's just like every coach is hammering it, isn't it, online? Like, we will teach you how to have balance within your... It's like, no, you fucking have to train hard and just eat shit for a period of time to get better at something. And it just like does your head in. It's like, if someone's motivated, and it's another thing at the minute, it's like, you can't rely on motivation. It's like, fucking rely on it as much as you can right now.
Yeah.
Like, if that individual is motivated now, get them in the gym every day. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, why would you take that away from them? If people were heavily motivated now to get in the gym in January, but they weren't last year, that's already 1 month better than they did last year. Do you know what I mean? And like, get them in, make them have a good experience. If you're a coach, this should be your job. Like, you should be giving them like autonomy to like fucking take it into the future and like continue for the rest of the year. I like people that like drop off from coaching and stuff. I'll always message them towards the end of the year, like Merry Christmas, hope you have a good new year. Like, what are you looking at next year for your goals and stuff like that? And they'll be like, oh, thanks for the message, appreciate you checking in. I'm like, that could just be the kick up the arse they need to start going to the gym once or twice a week again. Do you know what I mean? It's like, people are very quick to say like, oh, you just need to be disciplined and whatever. It's like, nah, if that person has motivation,
capitalize
and then take it and teach them to be disciplined in the future. But it's the same thing. It's like just demonizing just to sound good on socials.
Yeah, and I think people take these blanket statements and they just run with it. And I think that's probably at the core of like what really pisses me off with social media is like people not having that nuance, not understanding that, you know, there's different strokes for different folks in every situation. And when people just bang on about the same thing, you know, that probably is not a bad social media strategy because people associate you with a mindset and outlook. And if that resonates with them, maybe they'll follow along for the journey or whatnot. But maybe that's something that I struggle with, that mentality of getting behind or getting on a hill and dying on it for the rest of your life. We've spoken before about how you know, people's opinions become their personality and their whole marketing strategy, and then they struggle to stray off from that. As well as we've spoken about how we've become more accomplished coaches, spent more time in the industry, and probably die on less hills as a result of that. Whereas maybe to the onlooker, it might look. They might think that it would work the other way, when in reality you're understanding that things work for different people and at different times. So these blanket statements which come on social media, sometimes, you know, it is because they are a less experienced coach. That's why they're pushing that, and they're just trying to be poignant.
Yeah, but I think even the more experienced coaches that want to stay relevant are like the Mike Boyle, for example. It's like, he's coached thousands of people, man, like throughout his whole life. He's been in the industry for so long. So why do you need to do stuff like this now? Like, why do you need to come out with statements like that? And he's like basing it off of the people that he's coaching. I'm like, yeah, that's just anecdotal. Do you know what I mean? It's like, yeah, people coach general population all over the world.
That's the other thing as well. People, I suppose, they let their demographic of people shape their entire opinion of how things should be done for everyone. And that's probably another sign of someone who's not particularly like balanced, or, you know, has good foresight for coaching in general, is if they think that only their personal experiences or the experiences of people in their immediate circle are relevant. It's like, how can you possibly know what's best for training for a Olympic wrestler when your training background is Gen Pop and, you know, Sally from down the road who pushes trolleys in Asda?
Yeah, it's like, I don't know. I'd rather die on the hill of like trying to be normal and seeing both sides and yeah, this is good for that person, this is bad for them, this is good. And just instead of being polarizing, being like, this is just fucking common sense.
Maybe that's our way of being polarizing by not being a blanket statement. Fuck it.
Yeah.
I think that brings us to a nice natural end there. Any closing words?
Don't be a fucking helmet.
More,
actually, one
more
thing.
difficult than
Since your bandana comment, I've seen so many. Just don't get it.
To recap for any new listeners, I was going off on one. I actually started the podcast. Have we released that one yet?
Yeah.
I started the podcast with a bold statement of what has to go wrong with a grown man's life for him to be wearing a bandana on his head.
Yeah.
In a
non-satirical way.
Non-satirical way. I still don't have the answer, so if anyone does want to
it's always like the silk shiny with the pattern on it as well. I think it's just a Bali thing. Well, I hope it is. Not sure how much longer I can take it.
Yeah. My time here, if that's the case, might be directly linked to the amount of bandanas I see.
Yeah, that looks mint. I'll wear that.
Yeah. Post that, lads. Thank you for your support so far. Please share, like, comment. We need to keep pushing this and we need to keep asking you, unfortunately. But what they say, all the gurus, is that if you don't ask, you don't get. So give us a share, give us a subscribe on YouTube. It's greatly appreciated, and looking forward to more in 2026.
See you on the next one.
Goodbye.